This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. A Carberry man's plan for a quick ride on his dirt bike on Sunday turned into a harrowing tale. The 62-year-old was stranded for about 25 hours in the bush. He encountered a bear. He broke his leg and he was swarmed by insects. He told the whole story to the CBC's Joanne Roberts.
Even with a broken leg, scraped knees, and a back covered in insect bites, Randy Wood feels lucky to be alive. A dirt bike accident left him stranded in the bush for about 25 hours.
I don't mind spending the time to recuperate because I didn't think I'd ever get a chance to do that anyways.
On June 4th, Wood went for a ride on his bike near Camp Hughes, just over 6 kilometers away from his home in Carberry. When his bike fell on top of him and he broke his leg, he knew he was in trouble. No one knew where he was. His wife, Leslie Verstraete, says she didn't realize something was wrong until she found his cell phone in the garage.
And I just went, oh my God, that's why he's not calling me.
I figured I gotta get out of here. I gotta crawl out.
Wood says he used his shirt and nearby sticks to splint his leg. Then he began to crawl towards a nearby farm for help, but on his way, he found a bear.
I figured, from what I heard, you gotta make yourself big, and I had a stick in my hand that was helping with the crawling, and I just waved the stick and yelled at the bear.
The bear left. Wood spent the night under shrubbery to keep insects away from him, and in the morning he kept moving. But his knees were giving out, and he was dehydrated in the middle of a heat wave.
I said my prayers, and I thought, well, by the time I'm done with getting chewed up by the insects, I'll be pretty well dead anyways, and the bear will have his way, but it won't matter to me anymore.
It was in this area that Woods was exhausted. He thought he would pass out and maybe not make it home. Then he heard the sound of an engine and says he saw a sight he'll never forget. A Polaris 650 Special Edition, ridden by an RCMP officer that Wood credits for saving his life.
She saved me. I found out later that there would be another 2 miles at least to get to that farmer's yard. I wouldn't have made it. No.
Even though Wood is at home and healing physically, there are emotional scars too. He can't be alone, and he can't stand the sound of buzzing insects anymore.
I don't think it'll ever leave me. I don't think so.
Wood found out later the entire community worked to find him. They helped RCMP by looking for him in the bush.
When I moved here, I always thought that the community was the best, and now I know.
Yeah.
As Wood recovers at home, his wife has new ground rules. Before he leaves the house, he has to tell her where he's going. Joanne Roberts, CBC News, Carberry, Manitoba.
Public health measures may be gone, but for many, the effects of COVID-19 remain. Tonight, 2 Winnipeg women who still live with the life-altering symptoms of long COVID share their stories. As the CBC's Alana Cole reports, it's been more than 2 years since they first tested positive for the virus.
Sometimes I've been concerned, would I even actually be able to make it back?
Katie Kitchen used to work out 5 days a week. Now she worries something simple, like a long walk, could lead to a crash. In other words, fatigued for what could be days.
When I have a crash, my whole body just feels like it's being weighted down by sandbags.
Kitchen has long COVID. She tested positive for the virus in 2020, then never fully recovered. Other symptoms include breathing problems and migraines.
And it's difficult because I know I don't look sick. And people look at me and say, well, you look fine, which I think is probably a compliment, but it is very much an invisible illness.
Mary Lynn McLeod often sets a timer when she gardens, a reminder to rest out of fear she too could experience a crash. McLeod worked as an insurance broker when she first got sick with COVID-19 about 2.5 years ago. Long COVID symptoms, including fatigue and memory problems, have left her on long-term disability.
People, I guess because they don't see the damage, they don't realize how how impactful it is, that it affects every area of your life.
A December report from the Office of the Chief Science Advisor of Canada says as of August 2022, about 15% of adults who had contracted COVID-19 at that point said they experienced symptoms 3 months or more after infection. Manitoba Shared Health doesn't track the number of people with long COVID, but Dr. Alan Katz is part of a team at the University of Manitoba studying the illness. He says they looked at data from medical records of 66,000 people who tested positive for COVID-19 before December 2021. Then they looked at how many presented with symptoms that could be linked to long COVID over a year. Their first paper is being written now.
I'm really hoping that we'll get a good understanding of how serious this problem is, how serious the consequences are for people who've had long COVID, and help in understanding what the risk factors are.
Katz says while researchers are learning more about long COVID all the time, there are still unknowns.
But indoors, I still wear a mask because I recognize that we don't yet know what the risks are for long COVID at this time as things are progressing, and we don't know if the severe symptoms of long COVID are gone.
Both McLeod and Kitchen say they've seen specialists and undergone tests and rehabilitation programs here. Kitchen's also gone to Alberta to see an internal medicine doctor who works with long COVID patients. Both say they've seen some improvement in their health.
It very well may have changed my life forever, and I'm forced to adapt to that if that's the case. My hope is that I will get better.
I'm optimistic that that I will continue to improve as far as my overall quality of life goes. So I think that is a positive thing. I don't know if I'll be able to return to work.
Kitchen and McLeod say they'd like to see a dedicated long COVID clinic here for those living with the illness. Shared Health says there are no plans for that, but people should speak with healthcare providers about care options. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now, one of the Manitoba programs helping people who have long COVID is called Easy Street. It's at Misericordia Health Centre. It sees patients with neurological illness or injury. A spokesperson for the program says about 50% of the clients they see have long COVID. The program includes a physiotherapist, a dietitian, there's a social worker, and an occupational therapist. They all work to help people manage symptoms like brain fog or fatigue and adapt to their illness.
So with long COVID, folks are living within a new reality. You have a set parameter of energy, and we need to learn those parameters so that we don't overdo it and experience those crashes. And those crashes are quite debilitating for folks.
The mental impact for people who are experiencing long COVID is an important role that a social worker can assist in a variety of tools and coping strategies that help with stress management and, again, sort of adjusting to the uncertainty of what's coming next.
Clients are referred to the Easy Street program by their health professional. Over the past 2 years, 15 out of 36 members of Manitoba's PC caucus have either resigned or they've announced they will not run for re-election. One of them made that announcement today. At the same time, new poll results were published. CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
9 days ago, Sarah Gillimard marched to Winnipeg's Pride Parade as a member of the PC caucus. Today, she announced she's no longer taking any marching orders. The Fort Richmond candidate and cabinet minister announced she won't run for re-election this fall.
Everyone has their own reasons for leaving public life. We certainly appreciate her commitment to Manitoba over the last few years. I understand she has some health issues she's going to deal with, and clearly that's first and foremost.
Gillimard's departure wasn't the only bad news for the PCs today. An Angus Reid poll conducted at the beginning of June found the PCs continue to trail the NDP in popularity. It found the NDP enjoys the support of 44% of Manitobans, while the PCs have 39% and the Liberals have 10%. The NDP candidate for Fort Richmond, who suddenly finds herself in a wide-open race, claims voters are tired with the PCs.
I've knocked on thousands of doors, and this poll just lines up with what I hear at the doorstep.
The same Angus Reid poll suggests Manitobans disapprove of the way Heather Steffen's government has handled significant issues, including healthcare, crime, and the cost of living. The latter, even after the province mailed out checks to almost every adult Manitoban.
It's very hard with one-time payments to really help people, because if you get a one-time payment and it helps you cover your mortgage or your car payment or load up on groceries for the month, the next month you're kind of in the same situation.
The poll also suggests Manitobans don't like the leaders of the two most popular parties. 51% of survey respondents had a negative impression of NDP leader Wab Kinew, while 66% disapproved of Heather Stefanson.
People are still getting to know Premier Stephenson. She's not the in your face kind of a leader. She takes a humble and quiet approach, but a firm approach to leadership too. So, as people get to know Premier Stephenson, they'll grow to like her for sure.
The thing about polls is they're snapshots in time. A lot can happen between now and the election slated for October 3rd. Bart Lakivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Indigenous and business leaders gathered today to talk about the economy and reconciliation. The CBC's Cameron McLean tells us more.
It is everything.
Michelle Cameron has founded multiple businesses. She started Dreamcatchers Promotions and the INAC clothing chain. She says reconciliation is central to her success.
It is the foundation of how we grow as a community, not just the Indigenous community, but all of us, right? We all play a part in reconciliation and doing business and moving forward.
When Cameron started a new business, Dreamcatchers Executive Offices, she turned to another Indigenous business owner. Daryl Brown owns Kissick Commercial Furniture. He says Indigenous-owned businesses can be just as competitive as others if given the chance.
We know how to do business. We're very good at it. All we need is the door open, and you listen to us and give us a chance, and we'll show you what we can do.
Brown and Cameron took part in the Economic Reconciliation Business Forum. The event was organized by the Southern Chiefs Organization. It brought together businesses, governments, and other organizations to build relationships and share ideas. True North Chief Executive Mark Chipman gave the keynote speech today. He highlighted the work his organization is doing to redevelop the Portage Place Shopping Centre, right across the street from where the Southern Chiefs organization is working on the former Hudson's Bay building.
And I don't know that one project can be as successful without the other. So I think we've just got a natural, playground, so to speak, to work together.
SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels says companies need to think about who they have at the top.
I think anytime you can create partnerships and have ownership, and Jamie Wilson said it best this morning. He said, if you don't have Indigenous people on your board or on your executive branch of your company, then you're probably not serious about true reconciliation.
Daryl Brown says he wants to see governments set targets to buy more goods and services from Indigenous companies, taking another step down the path of reconciliation. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Meteorologist John Sauder joins us now. Boy, did the smoke ever pack in there for a while this afternoon.
Yeah, sure did. I was on at 3:35. I was on Up to Speed with Stephanie Cram, and I was saying, you can't really smell it. And then I took a little break and went outside, and you could smell it. And then an hour later, we were at 13 kilometers visibility, and now at 6 kilometers visibility at the airport. So it has gotten worse. Here are some pictures taken from our rooftop earlier this afternoon from the CBC, and you can see that off in the distance, those buildings are kind of disappearing. And this is when the visibility was at about 13 kilometers. So now it's even a little bit worse than that. And this is why Environment Canada issued a special air quality statement. And I have that up on the screen right now. This area of southern Manitoba, the Red River Valley, Winnipeg, and this northwestern Ontario, much of Saskatchewan and Alberta, as you would expect. But this whole shaded area here, plus sections just west of Lake Manitoba and up through Dauphin and out towards Saskatchewan, those are the areas right now that are seeing some smoke. Now, this may change as we move into the evening hours. This is what has happened over the past few days. You can see it's worse in northern Alberta, northern BC, and Saskatchewan, but now we've got that heavier smoke down into southern Manitoba. And then if we were to look at a wildfire smoke forecast, this is issued by Environment Canada. You can see these darker blues and yellows are getting worse as we head into the night tonight. Now, this is tonight overnight at about 1 in the morning, and then by early Wednesday morning, or Thursday morning, pardon me, that conditions will start to improve a little bit anyway, and then on into Thursday afternoon, we're looking at smoke a couple of days from now still being kind of widespread across southern and northern Manitoba. But be thankful you're not out here in northern Alberta and then even into southern Alberta and northern BC. So some pretty bad conditions to the west of us. So right now our visibility is at 8 kilometers. And that is just showing you how it goes up and down hour by hour. We are at 23 degrees. Hoping for 31 today. We got almost to 29, and then as the smoke thickened, it really blocked out that incoming solar radiation. So temperatures have been falling now by about 2 degrees every hour. Our air quality health index right now is set at 5 in Winnipeg, so that is at a moderate risk. And you know, it can get a whole lot worse, but still a moderate risk. So people with asthma and breathing issues may have to sort of take cover tonight, stay indoors, avoid activity outside. We do have a few little showers, some of them producing some lightning out to the west. A lot of that on the Saskatchewan side of the border, and any of that will dissipate tonight. We're heading into a clear night tonight, although smoky. Same true for northern Manitoba right through the day on Wednesday. And then as we get into Thursday, we're looking at a system that late in the day starts to move in the western edge of the province. May see that as a few broken or scattered showers overnight Thursday on into Friday. So tonight, low of 14, just like last night, but a lot more smoke around. Northeast winds will settle at about 20 kilometers per hour. 16 in the morning, mainly sunny with local smoke, and we'll shoot for a high of 29 tomorrow, but depending on how thick the smoke is, it may be more like a 25 or 26. 29 on Thursday, little feature on Thursday night. Not a lot of rain, but it leads to a cooler Friday, and then we're sunnier, Janet, on Saturday, and starting to warm up again on Saturday and Sunday this weekend.
Okay, thanks very much, John. We'll check in with you a little later.
Okay.
The 2023 TD Winnipeg International Jazz Festival begins tomorrow. So this is probably not at all a busy time for Executive Director Angela Heck. So what the heck? Let's take some time up from her now. Thanks for joining us, Angela.
Hey, my pleasure. It's the calm before the storm.
It does look quiet behind you. Where are you standing? It's a beautiful space.
I'm actually on the 7th floor of the Fort Garry Hotel, which is where we're going to be hosting our swing night in about a week with the Winnipeg Jazz Orchestra. We're pulling up the rug, literally, and putting down a dance floor. Big band, swing dance. It's going to be a blast, and it's a gorgeous venue.
Yeah, it looks very beautiful. It does sound like a lot of fun. In terms of the performers who are coming in, which ones are you most excited about seeing?
Well, I'm going to be excited about all of them, of course, because they're all very different. And I think that's the thing that I love most about this festival is you may not have heard about some of the performers, but they're all amazing. That said, I am particularly excited about Angelique Kidjo. She's our headliner, 5-time Grammy Award-winning, just a stellar international talent, was the winner of the Polar Prize this year. Has worked with Paul McCartney and so many other luminaries, and she is going to be spectacular. A little closer to home, we've got a Spirit of 73 series. So we're tapping into some of our local performers here who will be recreating the vibe of 73 by playing full albums from people like Herbie Hancock doing his Headhunters. We've got Apollo Sons doing Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and several others there. It's going to be amazing.
That is going to be an awful lot of fun and a great opportunity to showcase Manitoba talent, too.
Absolutely. We have over 100 performers at the festival, so there is absolutely no way I could tell you all about them right now in the time allotted, but they're going to be in venues across the city. We have our spiritual home in Old Market Square, where we are actually expanding to 9 nights this year. Last year we did 6, but we're going all in. It's an 11-day festival. It's going to be quite the marathon, but it's going to be a ton of fun.
A ton of fun. You know, arts organizations have told me live performances still haven't returned to getting the audience numbers they did before the pandemic. And now with inflation, money's tight, so people might be thinking about staying home. What do you have to say to folks about the importance of Manitobans supporting festivals like this one?
It's incredibly important for people to come out and support the performers, the artists who are really putting so much more into what you see on stage. If you think about the countless hours of rehearsal and preparation that's required, and we get so much joy out of it each year. For our festival, we of course have different price points. Our club series is universally $20 across the board. We're bringing back a blues weekend, so that's going to be amazing. We've got performances at the Royal Albert, at the Pyramid, Cabaret, right here in the club room and on the 7th floor here of the Fort Garry Hotel. But we've also got our free outdoor jazz series at Old Market Square. We're going over 2 weekends. We've expanded our capacity for beverages and a good time there. So we've got something for everybody at every price point.
Well, you can't really complain about that, can you? And Angela Heck, Executive Director of Jazz Winnipeg, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Donald Trump was in a Miami courtroom today to face 37 federal charges. The story is coming up. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Donald Trump pleaded not guilty today in a Miami courthouse to 37 federal charges tied to the alleged mishandling of classified documents. This marks the first time a former U.S. president has been charged with federal crimes. CBC's Chris Reyes has this report from Miami.
It was a morning of great anticipation here at the federal courthouse in Miami, where crowds arrived very early in the morning ahead of Trump's historic indictment. Have a listen to what they said.
It's nice to see a little justice done, a little bit delayed, but long overdue for a case of old 45 here.
Well, this whole thing should be thrown out because Trump did nothing wrong.
I'm here to support the legitimate president. This is third world banana republic tactics.
As scheduled, Trump arrived by motorcade just a little bit before his 3 p.m. arraignment. He entered the courthouse via an underground passage. The full security that's been in place in this area since over the weekend was on full display. He was traveling from his resort in Doral, Florida, which is about a 30-minute drive from here. He stayed there overnight, had dinner with his son, and also his aide, Walt Nauta, who is named in the indictment, also facing charges. Now, upon his arrival, Trump's spokesperson gave a statement outside the courthouse.
What is being done to the President Trump should terrify all citizens of this country. These are not the ideals that our democracy is founded upon. And this is not our America.
Once inside, Trump was booked and processed. No mugshot was taken. He faced a federal magistrate. This is the judicial officer in charge of pretrial proceedings. He entered a plea of not guilty to all 37 charges in connection to the alleged mishandling of classified documents after he left the White House in 2021. He was released on his own recognizance without bail or any restrictions. He then left the courthouse with a large crowd gathered outside cheering him on. He's headed to Bedminster, New Jersey tonight, where he's expected to make a public statement at a fundraiser. Chris Reyes, CBC News, Miami.
In Ukraine, 11 people are dead and nearly 30 injured as Russian missile attacks blew apart an apartment building. It happened in the central part of the country, in the hometown of Ukraine's president. CBC's Margaret Evans has the details.
I'm standing right in front of the main apartment building that was impacted by this latest strike. As so often is the case in these instances, it came in the early hours of the morning, taking people by surprise as they slept. You're seeing behind me people arriving. They're being allowed in to go and collect some of their belongings. And we're going to take you to show you a little bit of the impact point. This is where the strike hit. And if you pan up, you can just see the impact it had on the whole apartment building, which of course is a residential building. You can see the balconies. There have been feathers flying around in the air, presumably from pillows. We're going to just get out of the way of this bulldozer that's coming back to show you the other side of the square, because apartments all around this residential square were hit. It was a high death toll here when the search operation was underway and bodies were found. They were taken here to the middle of what is a playground to await the coroner's van to come and collect them. Kryvyi Rih is, of course, the birthplace of the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and this attack comes just as Ukrainian forces are gearing up for the start of a counteroffensive, an attempt to retake some and eventually all, they say, of the territory Russia is occupying here. They've announced from the Ministry of Defense that 7 small villages in Donetsk have been captured by or retaken by Ukrainian forces. But here, of course, people are getting on with the business at hand, which means cleaning up. But it also means tending to the injured, many in hospital. And of course, it means burying their dead as well. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Kryvyi Rih.
The RCMP says it has opened an investigation into allegations China tried to intimidate Conservative Member of Parliament Michael Chong and his family. That news broke earlier today at the latest parliamentary committee hearing on the issue. Rafi Boudjikanian brings us more.
When we were made aware of it, we approached Mr. Chong.
A rare admission from the RCMP to a room of MPs studying foreign interference, confirming an investigation into allegations of intimidation against Conservative MP Michael Chong. In May, the Globe and Mail reported a memo by Canada's spy agency revealed multiple MPs were targeted by China after they spoke out against Beijing's human rights record, and a Chinese diplomat sought information on Chong's family in Hong Kong. That memo is 2 years old. The Mounties only started looking into this case after the newspaper's story last month, prompting yet more questions about how widely CSIS shared its work.
With the amount of information that flows, sometimes it's a decision, does that meet the criminal threshold? When do we engage the RCMP? So I'm not here to judge the service on just one single aspect, but if we can improve the flow of information, for sure, for the better of everyone.
One person who did get the memo, the Prime Minister's national security advisor at the time, but he did not share it.
The report was never intended to spur action by readers, whether around targeting MPs or any of the other examples of foreign interference it lists. It was not a memorandum for action. It was a report for awareness.
Hard to believe for the official opposition, which used question period to again push for a public inquiry into foreign interference.
No public inquiry, no truth, and no responsibility shown by this government.
We continue to look at all options, including a public process.
Despite all the shouting on Parliament Hill, there's been some incremental cooperation too. The Bloc Québécois has met with the Conservatives and has sent the government a list of potential candidates to head a public inquiry. All this as the RCMP says it has opened more than 100 investigations into foreign meddling. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some families are speaking out about their frustration with Canada's Nexus card application process. They say they have been waiting nearly 2 years to get cards approved for their young children. And they say Ottawa is showing little transparency about what is taking so long. Michelle Gassoub reports.
Since almost the day he was born, 2-year-old Louis Jensen has been on a wait list. The toddler needs to be vetted by Canadian and American federal agents so he can get a Nexus card.
He's a 2-year-old. You know, what possibly could he have on his history that would, be a concern? I don't know why it's taking so long to process children's applications. It should be simple.
Nexus card holders get access to an expedited customs lane. But without a card for little Louis, the Jensens often face hours-long waits while traveling to visit their grandparents in Blaine.
My husband sometimes will bike down and go through the bike lane because that's always a bit faster. My daughter and I will go through the Nexus lane together. It's just, it really feels like an unnecessary burden given that we all have Nexus. He's a 2-year-old. He doesn't have a criminal history. Let's get the ball rolling on it.
The Canadian Border Services Agency said in a statement, applications should take 12 to 14 months. That's half the time the Jensens have waited. A backlog of applications during the pandemic and a temporary shutdown of the program caused the Nexus waitlist to swell to 295,000 in May of 2022. A year later, that backlog has yet to be cleared, with more than 276,000 still pending.
The concept of an interview for an infant is hilarious.
Tammy Yasrobi has been waiting 6 months for an update on her baby's card. She points out young children aren't even required to fulfill most of the application requirements.
You can't even do the biometric piece, right? So they can't do an iris scan. They can't take their fingerprints. You've interviewed me. You've interviewed my partner. What is it that you're learning about a baby that requires this extended wait time?
The CBSA said it doesn't sort applications by age, that it is required to make sure no custody arrangements are in place for a child, which can extend processing time. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Beatles may be about to have a new hit song. How artificial intelligence is helping make that happen. The story after the break. Legendary musician John Lennon was fatally shot outside his home in New York City more than 40 years ago. But now, in a merger of music and science, his voice has been brought to life to give the Beatles, potentially, one more hit song. Surviving Beatles Sir Paul McCartney credits it to artificial intelligence. CBC's Chris Brown explains this magical mystery process.
For a moment this past summer at Glastonbury's famed music festival, it was as if time turned back almost 50 years. Paul McCartney and John Lennon singing a duet, sending shivers through the audience. Thanks to that same artificial intelligence technology developed for Peter Jackson's documentary series Get Back, McCartney told BBC Radio that the Beatles now have one final song to release together.
It was a demo that John had that we worked on, and we've just finished it up. It'll be released this year.
The song is thought to be Now and Then, written in 1978, 2 years before Lennon was shot to death. 2 other Lennon-composed tracks were released by the surviving band members in 1995, but Now and Then was discarded because Lennon's voice track was too poor quality.
We were able to take John's voice and get it pure through this AI.
Get behind me! At the world's most famous crosswalk, outside the London recording studio where the Fab Four made music history, fans were elated.
Wow, I think that's really beautiful, because otherwise we wouldn't have heard that demo.
Artificial intelligence is already transforming the music industry, and not always in good ways, depending on who you ask. There are plenty of examples of fakes, as well as tough ethical and legal questions. AI-generated songs with vocals sounding strikingly like Canadian artists Drake and The Weeknd recently went viral before being pulled from streaming platforms for copyright violations.
Your data should not be used unless you have approved it.
Martin Clancy is a musician, and he chairs a global committee exploring the ethics of AI in the arts. Despite the risks, he wants artists to experiment.
Let's encourage Paul McCartney. Do a whole album, but lead the way, guide us in the way that Sgt. Pepper's inspired so many musicians.
Indeed, in his interview, McCartney says he believes AI's future in music is exciting.
There's a good side to it and then a scary side. And we'll just have to see where that leads.
Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
You know, John and I were just talking about how the weather temperature today, the high temperature really plummeted when that smoke rolled in.
Yeah, you know, we got to almost 29 earlier in Winnipeg, and there were some 30s out there as well. And then the smoke started to thicken up, 27, 25, now 23 degrees. Let's have a look at the current temperatures. And we are 23 in Winnipeg, not just at the airport, but downtown. 29 right now in Morris, and 25 in Steinbach, but in Selkirk, much cooler at 19 right now, 20 up around Lake Manitoba and St. Laurent. It's 22 in Brandon and 28 in Melita. And what a variance in temperature between areas like Melita and up to Dauphin and Swan River, where we're only seeing mid-teens at the moment. Back to the east, mid-20s around Sprague and Kenora, and then we cool off to 12 degrees in Barons River. We've got mid to upper teens in the west here across the north, just 12 degrees though in Thompson and 8 right now in Churchill. Pretty clear skies on the way for tonight. That's not counting on the smoke and haze that's in the air. We have plenty of that. You can almost pick it up on infrared satellite, but visible satellite would do a better job picking that up. The lows tonight anywhere from 8 in Red Lake to a pair of 12s in Kenora and Fort Francis. Here in the southeast, we're looking at 14 in Winnipeg under clear but smoky conditions. 7 in Barons River, and then out to the southwest, lows with a risk of an evening thunderstorm. I've been watching the radar, and we see this right around the Saskatchewan border, but this southwest corner of the province still could have about a 25% chance of an evening thunderstorm. It'll pass quickly if it does happen, and it won't be a severe storm. To the north, we're looking at varying amounts of cloud, down to -1 in Gillam, 2 in Churchill, 3 in Thompson, and then tomorrow, pretty decent recovery, low 20s in the west, Norway House as well. Thompson at 18 tomorrow and Churchill at 11, and generally a sun-cloud mix across the north. As we look at the south, generally sunny conditions and warm, although we will still have some smoky haze around through the day tomorrow and likely on Thursday as well. Mainly sunny otherwise, though, in 29 in Winnipeg. Depending on the thickness of the smoke, that'll knock the temperature down a little bit, and it is a little bit cooler out to the east. 21 in Kenora tomorrow, 23 in Fort Francis, just 17 in Dryden.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
A group of Sisler High School students are participating in the school's Reinventing Cities challenge. That's a collaboration between Minecraft Education, Microsoft Canada, and Winnipeg School Divisions. Here is the story of their project presented in a video by Sisler Create filmmakers.
So yeah, it's definitely past that bridge where we're building.
I'm Stella. I'm a grade 12 student here at Sisler. So there are 5 of us. We have Ryan, Zyrene, Giselle, and Jamie, and we all are friends here at school, obviously, and we all just work together whenever we can on the project, yeah.
Level Up Winnipeg is a part of the school's Reinventing Cities challenges.
It's a collaborative project between Microsoft, the City of Winnipeg, and school divisions across Manitoba.
Students will design creative solutions to real-world issues by using Minecraft Education, envisioning a more sustainable, connected, and inclusive future.
And students can explore the downtown through Minecraft and use their imagination to build a better city.
I was interested in participating in this project because I played Minecraft a lot, and improving downtown Winnipeg in Minecraft seemed like really interesting, and it seems like a good way to learn about Winnipeg.
We started building a lot of sidewalks, kind of wider sidewalks, and a lot of greenery, and just a lot of apartment buildings, actually. Yeah, we want to increase residents there as well.
We're thinking of building a SkyTrain to help with transportation around Winnipeg, because I know that's a really hard part about living here is the transportation.
We honestly wanted to just make the whole area a more walkable area and just comfortable for pedestrians, so that it would honestly just bring more people downtown.
We do have to think about the budget because we do want our world to be a little bit realistic. Like, it's so easy to do in Minecraft, but doing it in the real world is way harder to do so.
The map itself is actually really big and surprisingly empty, so it's really hard to work on it by yourself. And we are all like really busy individuals, so just finding time together, honestly, to work on it and just kind of cultivate new ideas on how to improve the city.
Solar power.
Bringing more people downtown will also kind of bring more work downtown, which will help boost the city and just increase the economic side of it as well. And just make it a more desirable place to be.
I think we have a pretty good chance of winning because we have lots of ideas and we have a lot of creative people on our team that can really enhance downtown Winnipeg.
The idea of using Minecraft as a platform, I think, is a really good way to get kind of kids involved, and obviously, like, oh, kids are the future, and it's a great way to get them thinking about ways that they can help the city and they can make a difference here in Winnipeg. So honestly, I feel like it'd be really great if we could keep this going and get so many different and so many more groups of people involved in it as well, just to bring more ideas to the table.
Does seem like a pretty great idea. Hey, get the kids all fired up. They all love Minecraft, so get all those ideas and that creativity flowing. It's been wonderful for CBC Manitoba to be working with the students at Sisler Create. I hope we can keep that program going. Still to come tonight. The MMIWG final report called for more support specifically for the Two-Spirit and LGBTQ communities. Coming up, we'll have the latest installment from our special series, Mother, Sister, Daughter. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. 4 years after the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls issued a report calling for change, CBC has been looking at what kind of progress has been made on those calls. This next story touches on the inquiry's specific calls surrounding Two-Spirit and LGBTQ people. 16 of the 32 calls have not been started. The other 16 are in progress.
Anin, everyone. My name is Alia McIver. I am a transgendered Indigenous Ikwa from the Sandy Ojibwe First Nation. I'm here to honor my best friend, Divis Belanger. Strong Indigenous transgender woman who came from the Barons River First Nation and became a stat to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls due to the fact of social programming not designed nor tailored to really help those whom identify in the spectrum of gay, bi, lesbian, trans, two-spirit, queer, gender non-conforming. She became a statistic and became exploited throughout the city of Winnipeg. And as a result, she lost her life to violence. It's important to really capture Divis for who she was. In 2004, the headlines weren't so friendly with Divis. The headlines dehumanized her rather than humanizing her. So she was known as Divis B, transvestite prostitute. Divis, she was crazy. She was fun. She was a sociable butterfly. She was someone that you would latch onto and really consider a sister. We were marching because we've lost numerous trans women to violence, so we marched in honor of them that night, not knowing we were marching, and her life would end that night. Winnipeg police did not take it seriously. They were driving by us, asking us if we were Divis Belanger, the hooker, or the prostitute. They would taunt us, they would pull up to us, For me, justice for Divis would look like other gender diverse people not facing all forms of violence. That's a form of justice that Divis would really appreciate. My choices would be doing the right thing. The right thing by supporting in any capacity that you see there's gaps in building bridges and connecting those bridges for a better outcome. Really reaching out to the families. We will love you. We will hold you up. We will walk alongside you, and we'll empower you.
We'll be right back.
Well, still a couple of warm and likely hazy days ahead of us before Thursday night. We see a little bit of shower activity overnight, perhaps lasting into part of Friday, and then Friday should clear. Sunshine on the weekend, and we're back into the 30s by Sunday and Monday. Possibility of showers and storms on Tuesday. The Winnipeg Sea Bears may have lost last night to the Edmonton Stingers, but Winnipeg's new basketball team is already scoring huge points with fans.
Huge points. Last night's game celebrated Philippines Independence Day, making many Winnipeggers smile, including the mayor. Here's your Daily Lift.
Let's go, Sea Bears!
It's actually Philippine Independence Day today as well, so it's very proud for our culture, and I'm just really happy to be here, and it's our first Sea Bears game too.
Oh, I think it's really cool that in Winnipeg they're gonna honor that because we're Filipino and we're proud about our heritage and our culture.
Go Sea Bears!
Basketball is a big sport in the Philippines, so it's nice to have one here. Finally, one basketball team here in Winnipeg.
We represent the flag right here. You can see the Filipino flag. We're big fans of basketball, so we're first game here, so really enjoying this and representing our culture. Go Sea Bears!
Yeah, go Sea Bears is right.
Yeah, basketball is so great to watch in person. Have you ever tried playing?
Yes. Yes, I have.
It's a lot of exercise, let me tell you.
It is. It's been a long time.
Go Sea Bears, go.
Well, but now we have to change gears.
Yes, we're going into hockey. Now,
right?
The Stanley Cup could be awarded tonight in Vegas unless Paul Maurice and the rest of the Florida Panthers have something to say about it.
So enjoy the game. We're off to Florida. Night. Or Vegas.
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 Yeah.